Hey everyone, hope you all had a great weekend. Thanks for joining me on April 28th. And as always, we are not financial advisors and everything you see on here is for educational purposes only. Alright, let's get started with, we can get started with the dollar. And, kind of how we talked about, if we close in green, we're going to have a little gap, which we do. But because we have a red candle right here, this is actually, because it dropped down, it actually closed the gap. So this right here is no more. That would have been just like right there because it already touched down to it. Even if it goes back up and it turns green, this wick came down enough to close that out. So we don't have to worry about that. Because that was one of my biggest concerns is like, oh, I don't want it to like push up and then leave this gap here because then we know we're going to have to come back down. As the sense is like, okay, we want it to come back up to the 105. And it's interesting because, we go back to the dollar update. After we dropped, we knew we still had to come back to the 104, 105. Even if we drop back down, it's like, all right, it's going to be pretty interesting to watch it come all the way back up, which it came all the way back up and knocked out every single target. When a lot of people were screaming like, oh, it's going to die. Now, it did drop to the 99, which for me is kind of like a selling trigger point, but it held. After a few days, it's like, all right, it held, so it'll come back up. So that was pretty interesting watching that out because, again, we wanted to really make sure these gaps close out, perfectly. And now when we look at Bitcoin, I put the little pattern on it already. Now, it's a little tricky just because, we know we have to come back to 25,300. That's the second arrow target. Just like how down here, we knew we had to come back down. So we know we have to do that. The white fib right now is a maybe, so we might even drop to 24,830. But the 25,300, it's a for sure. And if we start dropping down, that could, again, trigger a sell-off, and we can knock that out. What's interesting here is, I've had a day, we knew we were going to go sideways. We knew we could push back up to the little, peak here and then continue to go sideways and eventually start to drop down. Before, I mentioned how it could be around Wednesday or Thursday, but I can still move this a little forward. And if that's the point, then it's going to be maybe into Friday because this is the candle that shows it's going to be the bigger drop. So we can still actually keep going sideways until the end. Keep in mind, right, there's like a little, it can always happen earlier or a little bit afterwards. So the tricky part here is which route do I take? Do I take the part where it says Wednesday or Thursday? Well, technically it's still Friday. It's still Friday, Saturday. Because it's this is a candle that, let me point at it. This is the candle that shows it's going to drop. So we might dump in over the weekend. I know I kept talking about how, okay, my projection right now is about Wednesday or Thursday. Technically, we can be on high alert starting, Wednesday or Thursday we'll start in high alert and it can go all the way down until Sunday. So these days right here will be, during our high alert, meaning, hey, this is the part where we can drop down at any point. But again, we can always drop a little bit earlier or afterward. That's just the way the pattern works. It's not perfect, but it follows it overall. Just like how we did here. We had this peak, we would go down, come back up, and the second peak would be a little bit higher than that. We had this peak, we dropped all the way down, went up, peaked a little bit higher than that, came back down, and completely dumped. And when we line up the peaks here, it was like a day after. So if I line this up here, it could be a day after, and that could be, next. Well, it can be, Thursday. So it might actually still line up. Yeah, it can still be Thursday, Friday. So those are the days that will be on high alert. Or maybe Sunday, Saturday. It's going to be a pretty tricky one. Just because, again, this thing could be on both sides. It could be on this side, it could be on that side. This is technically the candle that... No, yeah, it should be Thursday, Friday. Because that's the candle that starts to drop down. Again, we'll play by ear. We'll first stick with Wednesday, Thursday, but it can go all the way up to, like, Sunday. Those will be our our high alert days. And as far as everything else, everybody's just dropped back down. H bar is finally breaking below this. And if we close below this thing's going to dump back down, which is good because I want to buy more H bar. I mean, I want every single coin to keep dropping down because there's a lot of this I want to buy. I'm glad this one's dropping back down because it started pushing back up. What was that? Ocean or was it Velo? Pandora. That's breaking below, so that's going to be pretty good. Shiba. It's below this. So the fact that, it tried to retest that and it's dropping below, this could drop back down nicely. Ample still holding there. Atom still there. If Atom can keep dropping down to the $6, that's gonna be such a steal. Solana, Phantom, everybody's at a really good spot. And keep in mind, we have until at least, this December when we switch from, that sideways kind of a market to more of a upward market. It still drops a little bit, but it starts pushing back up. We'll push up a little bit, come back down a bit during the halving. And the halving, it's going to be, your last time to hey, you need to buy now or you're going to get left behind. If you're still waiting for some crazy crash, some flash crash that someone from Woo said, if you're not buying from then, you're going to be missing out. I'm already starting the dollar cost average since way back here because it's going to come to a point where it's it'll be something. It'll go down, come back up, down, back up, and then slowly start to push back up, and then it'll come back down. Just as an example, right? Because remember, we've been buying since here, right? You don't want to buy all the way over here where it's oh, it's already starting to push back up and back up. You don't want to be buying as it's going back up, back up. You want to be buying every time there's a big drop. Right? Every time there's a big drop. This doesn't necessarily mean we're going to have a big drop down to that. This is just an example. All right, every big drop you want to buy. Don't be trying to be greedy and be no, well, I keep hearing this going to go lower. I'll tell you this right now. You're always going to hear that it's going to go lower. Right? And one of the mistakes I've made before in the past was I believed them. Okay, so you don't want to make that same mistake. And if you don't want to make the same mistakes, one thing I do recommend for those who are not on the Discord, on the premium side, it's $30 a month, and then you'll have access to a lot more rooms, a lot more info, especially information on the daily, as well as a lot of members in here very helpful with sharing a lot of stuff. We also touch on, things on the woo-woo side, astrology, spiritual healing, member dreams. We have charts. In alphabetical order, makes things a little bit easier. And then just a bunch of other rooms, But with that said, thank you for joining me today, and I'm going to see everybody on the next update. Quick, two little things. One is, I forgot to mention that the link is in the description below to our website, which links to this Patreon. The second one is, I do want to show every single drop that we nailed. And the reason I want to show this is because I want people to understand, we've been one of the rooms that's actually been consistent on nailing our target. There's a lot of rooms that people are paying for who I feel they're just getting screwed because you're just getting all this false hope, right? Back here, they've been telling you, hey, buy this meme coin, that meme coin, buy this and that, and it's just completely been dumping. When I'm over here screaming left and right, oh my God, guys, trust me, I think we're in a bear market. We're going to completely crash down. We care about our members in this room. And the reason I bring this up is because I do want to get this point across is the room will always be set to a certain amount. Once we get full again, everybody will be placed on a waiting list. And you don't want to be put in that waiting list once the bull market happens. And, you know what I mean? you're going to be left out from all these good updates every single day, right? So I guess get in before it's too late. Kind of like with the cryptos, right? Make sure you buy your cryptos before it's too late.